And welcome back to the February 5th, 2019 special meeting of Glendale City Council. May we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Agajanian.
Present.
Devine.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Mayor Sinanian.
Here. May we have the report, please?
The agenda for the February 5th, 2019 special public meeting of the City Council was posted on Friday, February 1st, 2019 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. What's next?
Director of Community Development regarding Economic Development Work Plan, 1A, report and file. The work plan, 1B would be motion authorizing the city manager to execute a professional service agreement with CicLAvia Incorporated in California Corporation to produce the CicLAvia Glendale meets Atwater event.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good afternoon. This afternoon before you we have an item from Community Development, our Economic Development Division. And we're going to start off with Darlene Sanchez along with Jennifer Hiramoto giving you an update on the Economic Development Work Plan. We don't typically do it at the 6-month time frame, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, but we do need some direction from you as it relates to a particular item, which is CicLAvia, and we'll go through that and get your feedback on that one item as we move forward, and any other thoughts that you may have on the work plan as a whole. With that, we'll go to Ms. Sanchez.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council. This really is the blueprint as we finish out this portion of the fiscal year. The time this afternoon is intended to get your feedback on your ideas of priorities. We're really going to look at the nitty-gritty of our work plan and our strategies that we hope as we carry out your priorities. And with that, with the demise of redevelopment many years ago, our tactics in economic development have remained the same. We look at activities that generate revenue, we support strategies that continue to raise the profile of the City of Glendale, and we support entrepreneurs. We achieve these goals through a variety of measures, and we break them out into different sections. Business attraction, that's where you'll see our relationship with the brokerage community, targeted recruitment. In asset management, we look at how we develop our city properties. Business services, this is a support of our existing business system, and also special projects like CicLAvia, like monument signs. As we track our success in revenue generation, there are several key performance indicators that we measure. The one I would like to highlight really is related to vacancy rates. When we look at our retail vacancy rate, which includes restaurants and service businesses, our vacancy rate is really healthy at 1.9%. Comparing that to nationwide, which usually hovers around 10%, this is something that you can really be proud of. We've listed a few of our new tenants that we saw in this last year, Panda Inn, Mr. Furley's Bar, Dunkin' Donuts, which people have been very, very excited about. And how do we do this? This is where we tie in what we do with business attraction.
Mr. Hurley's Bar or Dunkin' Donuts? Which one are they excited about?
This is a very excitable community, so we have different aspects. We try and serve everyone. Yeah. But with our business attraction, ways that we have done this in the past include sending attraction packages out to businesses like French restaurants. We keep a close tab with the brokerage community, and we also attend conferences such as those that pictured here at International Council of Shopping Centers, which we plan to attend again this year. The other area we monitor is the Class A office rates. Following the departure of Nestle, we were really concerned on how this would impact our local market. In 2017, we did see that the vacancy rate climbed to 18.6%. We sent out attraction packages. We worked with current tenants. We also here hosted a brokers networking event at Nestle as a way to continue to generate this increased interest. And I'm happy to share that through a combination of different tactics and the realities, of course, of the private market, we've seen this figure decline to 15.6%. Some of this was a result of the 800 North Brand building getting filled, but we also saw the addition and expansion of current tenants. What we have on this slide here is some of those nice stories. Service Titan, which is did fill up a critical vacancy. We have another company, Disco, which fundraised $13 million, and they have up to 100 jobs at that particular company. Beyond Limits as well, where they also have in the range of 100 employees, and Age of Learning now is at 650 jobs. This here, this is just an example. This was a quote by the Senior Director of Industrious, which is a co-working space. They are slated to open in June of this year, and they're looking at opening 25,000 square feet on 500 North Brand. And when asked, why did you choose Glendale? You see here that all of these things that make sense and what we're trying to achieve here is happening. It's a growing market. There's a high growth startup community. And there's all these industries are coming together in Glendale. And this is the kind of reputation building that we're looking to see here. One other vacancy rate I wanted to point out, and something we're really proud of, is our industrial vacancy rate. In areas where you see this declining, in Glendale you see that this has maintained. This is our manufacturing zone. This is really the backbone, really where a lot of America was founded. So you see these types of jobs and these types of companies that we really like to integrate into not only when we look at what we consider a success, but when we look at our tech strategy, we look at ways to get companies and manufacturing companies like this involved as well. So Jennifer will take over now.
I'll jump in. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Darlene mentioned reputation building, and that's one of the things that we work on doing as we look at raising the profile for the city. So we do that in a few different ways, whether it's through the media mentions and followers. Some of that is through paid advertisement, our newsletters. We have a monthly newsletter and social media, but the other is through free press, essentially. These are positive articles that have been written about us, and you have probably seen some of these. One example of this came out on Business Insider, where they featured Glendale as the best neighborhood in LA to raise a family. And that's a testament really to everything that we work together in within City Hall. We had another article that was featured in Built LA. There were 4 companies that were listed in this article of top 100 companies within LA to work for. 4 of these companies were listed within Glendale. One to note, which I'd never heard about, was Watch Gang. This is a high-end watch subscription service for men, so maybe something that, gentlemen, you subscribe to soon. Another is highlighting some of the newer businesses coming online. This one is Greyhound. This is a very trendy sports bar that is going to be opening soon and working its way through its entitlement process. We also have our longtime establishments here, like Dina's. This was featured in the LA Times as, you know, one of Glendale's icons. And then we have
Ms. Haramoto, that's Dinah's.
Oh, Dinah's. Sorry.
She's
Obviously,
too young.
I've eaten there many times. It's been a gluten-free diet for a while. And then we have the Austin Powers themed nightclub, the Electric Pussycat Swingers Club. And we're happy to see that. And then Montrose, you know, the business improvement districts that we have throughout the city, this is part of the charm within Glendale. This was an article that was written about some of the amount of filming that is actually featured within Montrose. So those are just some of the media mentions and followers. Other activities that economic development does is special events. We work to host and support a number of these special events. This one here is the Executives and Innovation Roundtable. This was featured at Age of Learning. We had about 30 companies represented and members of the council as well. Another one was the renaming of ARTSOC. Great selfie here. And this was an important moment, I think, for all of us, and your economic development team supported in the effort in hosting, in co-hosting at least the day of event. And then we've obviously spent a lot of attention to ARTSOC Avenue with the World Cup series and other special events. This one was the Summer of Soccer, and we will have more of these to come. And then a third component is on sponsorship. So we host a number of events, as I mentioned, but we also work to raise our profile regionally and with local business organizations. Mr. Agajanian represented us all at the Valley Economic Alliance, and they continue to be a great partner. And of course, the City Council was all there to support the Armenian American Museum at its first annual gala, and this is something that will continue to raise the profile for our city. Another area, just segueing into supporting entrepreneurs. When we look at the entrepreneurs, these are essentially the small businesses here, and there's more than 10,000 small businesses in Glendale alone. It is important that we support a variety of these small businesses, not just within one industry, but all industries. And we do it through a variety of ways. We track that success through a variety of measures. But I did just want to highlight the businesses supported. Members of this City Council have participated in the Glendale Relationship Initiation Team. This is a company that Darlene had mentioned has recently expanded beyond limits. This is a firm that is solving the galaxy's largest problems, like how to safely land a Mars rover on Mars using augmented reality and artificial intelligence. And this firm, since this visit, has expanded, and they will continue to expand. When we do these visits, we also have a survey, and this is it's an important relationship development opportunity, but also a way for us to better understand our businesses. And these are just a few things to mention. So 80% of the businesses that we visited are satisfied with the local workforce. That's a great thing for us to know, especially given that attracting talent is a key site selection criteria. 60% of the businesses we visit expect expansion in 2 years. Another important thing for us to know and relay to our team members over in building and safety and permitting services. 96% want to stay in Glendale. That's great news. That means that we're all doing our job and doing it really well. And 65% of the businesses are interested in partnering with schools on internship programs. This is something that we monitor as well because we're trying to develop a pipeline of talent at a young age. We want folks who at a small age can continue to live in Glendale and continue to stay and be educated here. Yes, sir.
The survey these are great numbers, by the way, and the 4% that they don't want to stay in Glendale, they're probably like Nestle, that they had a regional plan or a global plan to bring everything under one roof, and that's why they moved. But how many businesses were surveyed under this survey?
This one, I believe, included about 66 businesses, and 66, okay. And we visited about 100 businesses. And council was, as you saw, participant in many of these. Our first pass at this was to visit the office businesses, the office tenants. We did that for the first year. Our next focal point will be within the San Fernando Road and the manufacturing businesses. They remain a critical priority for us, and we'll get more info from them.
So this survey is the result of the grid that we did, the visits that you do with the businesses, and you meet with them on a monthly basis or weekly basis?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. This is just another example of really the art of discovery when you visit some of the businesses that are here locally. And again, many of the businesses, these are folks who oftentimes they say, you know, we've never had a city representative visit us before in another city that we were at. And we hear that comment quite a bit, and we appreciate council's support in this program.
So as we look ahead at the next 6 months, we will continue to pursue a number of the activities that we've described, but I'm going to point out some area of focus and then also get to where we need the specific direction on. But again, I want to show you sort of where we spend our staff time and where we look at some of our activities. So some of the top priorities related to asset management will be to complete the negotiations for Rock Haven, developing a strategy for the ArtSoc units, which is tied to our future plans for the Arts and Entertainment District, and also the hotel RFP and selecting a developer where we have that deadline coming up in April. As we look at raising the profile. We have major placemaking activities that we're working on this year. Central Business District, working with the Downtown Glendale Association as they look to enhance their services north of the freeway. Central Park Block, plans underway to redesign the master plan of that block, working with the Armenian American Museum. The Arts and Entertainment District, another very large priority as we move forward with ArtSoc, as we work with Studio 111, which we recently selected, and CicLAvia, which is where we need some of this direction. So we hosted CicLAvia back in June of 2017. We did receive a Metro grant at that point to host it. Because the budget cycle is every 2 years with those grants, we applied and we did expect to receive a grant this year. So while we did not get that particular funding, we did allocate a portion of the economic development budget in anticipation of this. So we are looking for direction on whether we move forward without that grant or not. And here is a little, and again, we can touch on the specifics of this if we have some questions. This is a map of the route. It is off-brand this year. We have been working, behind the scenes through staff, working with our different business organizations to look at some of the things that occurred in the previous event to see if things that we can improve. And this is where there were comments made where we got to a point where this is the schedule, this is the route. Another big initiative that Jennifer will talk about is really our tech initiative. And again, the reason we're drawing attention to this is because we want to sort of show you and get some feedback on whether we are continuing to move in the direction that you would like us to move into, or if there are shifts and changes that you would like to see.
Thank you. As Council well knows, over the past few years, we have been implementing with vigor elements within the tech strategy. And right now, the two items before you are both the Tech Accelerator and Tech Week. The City Council provided direction back in July to issue the RFP. We are very close to making that recommendation to City Council, and we should be doing that within the next month. Regarding Glendale Tech Week, we have now hosted this for 3 years, and Council has been a participant each year, and we've been grateful for that. This year, here's just a snapshot, but we learned a lot over the past 3 years. I think we have a very good understanding of what the community wants, and it has definitely helped us raise the profile and connect with our local business community, as well as potentially attract new businesses to Glendale. And that is one of our key motivators. So you can see attendance went from 1,500 in 2017 to 3,500 in 2018. And we also saw the social media and paid impressions greatly increase. We also experimented with other elements of programming. One of them included the award ceremony as well, acknowledging Service Titan here. And again, very helpful in just continuing to raise the profile of the city and the local talent that's here. Moving forward, should the City Council wish to continue with Glendale Tech Week, we plan to suggest securing September 14th to the 20th as the 4th annual Glendale Tech Week. One thing that we have done differently compared to the first 2 years is continue to really empower the community to host these events and take greater ownership. And last year we ended up hosting 34 events, most of which were hosted by members of the community. These were folks like Service Titan who hosted events. We had more than 30 people participate in the job fair. We had a very developed kids program as well, which was something that we didn't even anticipate. So we've tried to be responsive and as collaborative as possible and really just encourage the community to take hold of this. And we believe for the long term that that is our goal, that eventually that this will be a community-led effort and it will not be a city-led. Unfortunately, we're not quite there yet, and we do see the need for the city to continue to support and encourage this effort. With that, I'll turn it back over to Darlene.
So with that, this is where the council direction is being requested. If there are specific comments that you have related to any of the items that we talked about in the economic development work plan, and then specifically we're requesting direction on the CicLAvia event. Because we did not receive the grant that we were anticipating, we do want to know if the council wishes to move forward without the award of the grant. That we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Questions? Yes, Mr. Najarian?
Thank you for the presentation. You ladies are busy. You're doing all sorts of stuff throughout the city, so I appreciate that. And we talked about getting a first-class restaurant, more first-class restaurants to sort of balance out our eating options. But let me go to the, I guess, the question at hand about the CicLAvia. I'm pretty much agnostic as to whether we should push for it this year and spend all of that budget on it ourselves, or whether we should wait next year and get a round of funding from Metro, which would save us half of that budget. It was fun. I think the first CicLAvia was a lot of fun. It was engaging. It brought people from all over into that corridor. I think we should have the CicLAvia, or the Open Streets event, as they call it, managed by CicLAvia. So I don't really have a burning desire to have it done this year, and the added benefit is that we would save half of that money and have Metro pay for that, assuming we win that grant. And we're going to have to work on that grant writing a little bit, because I dug deep into Metro, and there were some things we could have done better to have won that grant. We were right on the cusp of funding. But it was fun. I think we should do it, whether it's this year or next year. I think saving half of that 280,000, 140,000 and change would be worth it if we put it back a year. But I'm open to my colleagues as to whether they're really excited to go for it. I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Hey, just, dear colleagues, just a comment. We do have one speaker card. If you have questions, maybe we take questions, but then we can express our thoughts, if you don't mind. So let's take this,
Okay.
or if you have the question, you go ahead with the question.
Well, I'll see if that's what, who's the speaker?
Speakers, shouldn't matter, but it's Herbert Milano.
Oh, Herbert, okay. I'll ask my question later.
Later, okay. So let's have Herbert come up. How much time do you need?
Just 3 minutes is fine.
CicLAvia, Colombia.
Yes.
The natural connection.
Yeah, Mayor Sinanian, yes, my name is Herbert Molano. Over 10 years ago, I actually made a presentation to the City Council to suggest for the City Council to actually make a trip to Colombia. I think that Medellin would be an ideal place for the City Council to collaborate and learn from that particular City Council. Medellin was considered or was given an award for the Global City of the Year in 2016. The sports program that is funded by the municipality through their Department of Water and Power is one of the most amazing programs anywhere in the world in the way that they do it. They have a CicLAvia every Sunday between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. And it was every Sunday. And what is amazing about this event is seeing how the communities coalesce. So whenever there are particular divisions within a city, whatever the stratification might be, an event like a CicLAvia where kids and families come to basically ride bicycles, run, roller skate, and they have events for exercises, that's a significant amount of benefit. It creates cohesiveness within a city unlike anything you've ever seen. It was I go to Medellin every year. And by the way, last year I went to Yerevan and spent 2 weeks in Armenia. Because I go really to understand how cities work, what makes them tick, what makes them improve. And it's one of the pleasures that I get out of seeing some of these programs. My suggestion is that this program is so exceptional that it is truly worth your time, if you could actually manage it, to look at how a city funds this and the effect that a program like this would have. It is my hope that the city would expand this program. They were so successful that they expanded it now to evenings on Tuesdays and Thursdays for 2 hours between 8 and 10 p.m. So you can take a look at the impact on businesses, on the local, on traffic. But it is an amazing transformation that I think may be worthwhile for Glendale to take a look. So it is my hope to encourage you to make a visit to Medellin, and hopefully I'll be there to help guide you on some of those experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Molano. Love to go to Medellin. Ms.
Yes.
Devine?
Okay, I have a question about the CicLAvia. Now, as I understand it, there is a movement in La Crescenta and in collaboration with Glendale to have a CicLAvia in 2020. They already have their papers, letters, all sorts of information gathered for their application. So my question is, if they're going to do this or try to get this accomplished and get the grant in 2020, would it be prudent for us to do the same thing? Well, now you're talking next year, so we'd be almost in conflict with that group, although we'd be in conflict with ourselves if we are working with La Crescenta. So where do we stand on that?
We do have a meeting scheduled, well, let me back up.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam. So we do have a meeting scheduled next week to discuss the La Crescenta's plan to host their own CicLAvia event. We're not quite sure yet how exactly or what that could mean for us. So at this point, it's just an exploratory conversation. And we set that meeting up knowing that we would still await direction from the City Council today on whether we would be moving forward.
So the Town Council, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council in La Crescenta have expressed an interest in moving forward and sent a letter to the city saying that they're interested, they'd like to collaborate with the City of Glendale. We have yet to meet with them to understand what that collaboration may look like and what their thoughts are in terms of what those routes may be. So there's more information to come. But you are correct, Councilmember Devine, in terms of the possibility of a grant in the following year. Could we be competing against one another? Possibly. I'm not quite sure how the scoring goes as it comes with the Metro funding, but we'd be able to figure that piece of it out as we go through. Through that.
Then would it be better for us to join with La Crescenta and possibly get this grant instead of going after it alone, just our city, especially if they would plan on doing something on Foothill through Montrose, and that would be great publicity for that area.
It absolutely could be something that the council could give us direction on in terms of if that's what your interest is ultimately, and focusing in on the north side based on Crescenta Valley Town Council's also interest in this and collaborating together. That could make for a stronger application process.
Yeah. And the other comment I wanted to make was I looked at the route, coming down Glendale Avenue, and I have questions and concerns about that, it not being in our business district per se. It just, and plus, I can think probably of a million ways we can use that $200 and almost $300,000 on something more beneficial to our city, and wait and see if this collaboration works out.
Okay. Well, there's more cards.
We have one more card.
Go ahead.
You're
No,
welcome to go.
it's okay.
Okay, we have
Let's
a
hear that.
card from Mr. Romel Pascual. How much time do you need, Mr. Pascual?
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Romel Pascual. I'm the executive director of CicLAvia. So thank you very much. Because, we're so excited to have the opportunity to do the Glendale meets Atwater route. As you recall, there were tens of thousands of people that came. And, my memory was we had about, we talk about social media impressions, probably close to 3 million social media impressions in any one event. Throughout the year, we get in the neighborhood of about 10 million social media impressions, and these are organic. These are where folks are really exploring their cities. And, with CicLAvia and the route that was selected really speaks to looking at ways in which we increase local business attraction without impacting those that normally drive. We're not anti-car, by any means, but, part of the routes are really looking at the lessons learned from the last time we did it, when the conversations with Americana and conversations with the Galleria. And then during that same day, it was quite remarkable because the Galleria was packed and the Americana was packed while the streets were closed. So it really introduced folks, as you all were there, into just a different way of really exploring our neighborhoods. And so we're very excited. And I know the conversation was talking about route selection. And when we've done 30 of these, and the most difficult and challenging ones are to make sure that these routes are accessible, which means they need to be flat, which means that they need to make sure that folks, not only those that are have disabilities, are able to access it. So we really look at elevation, just in terms of some conversation and thinking through, looking at places like those that you mentioned. We have looked at them in the past, because we've done 30 of these since 2010, and we really are mindful of inclines, because not only are folks going to be going up and being very difficult going up, it's how they go down is kind of where the challenge is. So that is one of our main concerns or issues. And I think in moving into 2020, part of our schedule with CicLAvia is we're doing these every other month as an organization in partnership with cities. And so looking at how that fits in to the narrative of what the next 2 years will look like, I think there's a tremendous opportunity, for folks. The CicLAvia universe of folks who are talking about it have been very excited about going back to Glendale. The conversations on social have been quite impressive. I mean, if you think about how big our region is, they're thinking Glendale, Portos. I mean, the things that the theaters, the iconic aspects are ones of, when are you coming back? And I'm thinking, do you live in Glendale? Say, no. When are you going back? Because that's when we want to go. And I'm here to answer any questions, but we're really excited, potentially, of the opportunity to return back to Glendale. And if there's any way in terms of cost savings that we can offer as CicLAvia to help bring this to fruition, I'm certainly open to entertaining any of those costs associated, because understanding how these dynamics works, I'm very open to any of those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pascual.
Question?
Yes, question from
Pascual?
council member. Mr. Pascual, question for you.
So, as you started to hear the discussion, that cost is definitely a factor. Can CicLAvia give us a break on some of the management fees?
Absolutely. I mean,
that's
this is a
great.
very important part of the region. It's a very important part of the history of CicLAvia to date. We have not gone to this part. I remember the last time we came here, part of the issues were some folks who had come from San Diego. But the answer is yes. We can certainly work with you in terms of what that would look like.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, any way to make
that's
this,
very nice.
this is a very personally special to me, because this is where I spend my money. I live in Eagle Rock, so I come down here, and I think that there's something very special and dynamic, certainly up Glendale into getting into the Civic Center area of the city.
And so as I understand, and I'm sure you know probably a little bit better, a lot of the expenses that we incur are the police department and the public safety folks blocking the streets and making sure everything goes smoothly.
Right.
If you have any ideas to give us as to how we can pare down some of those expenses, that would be great also.
Right, with maintaining the level of safety,
Right,
that is certainly
exactly.
important. Yeah, I certainly would work through that with you all, given that we have some experience in that. But also in terms of the contractual relationships that we, as CicLAvia, as a nonprofit, have with the city, we'll be more than happy to entertain what is that level of break, as you say, and to be able to make this happen. We're certainly open to that.
Can
Another
I
question
ask you
from Mr.
another, in the criteria and the choices for the grants, knowing that the foothill area, Montrose, is not flat, that would be coming down and, some hills, would that make a difference in the choice in the, as far as criteria is concerned?
It
for
could.
What area, like if we're going against each other, which,
It could, partly because there's a certain level of liability that folks have to think through associated with how, like with any event. You want to make sure you reduce the level of liability and not introduce something that you have direct control over. And for us, that is one of the issues that we look at when we do site selection with CicLAvia. We ride the route, we walk it, beforehand, and we certainly do an assessment afterward. So we kind of have a history of knowing where areas are more likely to have, because these are little kids riding for the first time sometimes. The family's going, go without the training wheels, try it. And fortunately, the city of Glendale's roads are much better than almost in any other city. So you don't end up hitting I think hitting up certain potholes, I would say, in like the city of Los Angeles. I hope LA's not listening to me, but I think, yeah.
thank you.
Can I get a quick question for staff? How much of the cost associated with CicLAvia, the total amount, how much, is there a breakdown as to which of it is for what?
Yes, and I apologize, I didn't have this written out. Yes, the breakdown in general is we allocated $150,000 for the CicLAvia contract, and I'll go over sort of what that included. The police cost for the city is about $87,000. Fire, $2,000, and traffic control, about $28,000. There's also cost incurred by the city of LA in the Atwater section. They would pay for that portion. But the CicLAvia cost, although it does seem like it is a large part of that, a lot of this is the hubs. So some of the infrastructure with the rock climbing wall, some of the festivities related to that, the staffing, that's included really in the CicLAvia contract. And so when we were able to secure the grant in the last event, we were able to spread it out over those different ideas. So we do appreciate that the council is very fierce negotiators, and we are able to get, so if the council if this is an event that the council does move forward with, we would certainly look at a lot of those issues that we can bring the costs down. That was also our first time, so we have better idea of how to look at the police and the traffic control. And so, obviously we'd make sure that this is still a safe event, but if there's areas where we can reduce that cost, we'd certainly look to do that.
Thanks, Ms. Sanchez. Mr. Garpetia?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So these items are here before us today. Usually it comes during the budget time, right? But it's before us today because of CicLAvia and not being able to get the grant, basically. Am I correct? And the plan for 6 months plan and everything. Is the entire plan going to come back to us at budget time again?
Through the budget process, the
Right.
work plan would be set up for the following fiscal year, yes.
Just a quick note, though, isn't the date for CicLAvia April 28, 2019?
Correct.
So that would be
Pre.
process.
Correct. So if I understand the question properly, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Garapetian, each year you approve a budget for the city of Glendale, of which economic development is a part of that through community development. There are some decision points that we need from you today as it relates to CicLAvia, because it is in April, if council wants to move in that direction. So we need that decision based on that piece of it. And if council also had thoughts regarding other areas within the work plan that was outlined to you today, because of the dates that are in place, by way of example, Tech Week that's coming up, if we do it in September, those are the types of things we would need to know in advance, so that the planning stages of such an event can take place in advance and give the staff the opportunity to work toward whatever that date is that's being set forward. And so, yes, it does come to you by way of budget. We try to lay that out. Sometimes the dates don't always coincide in terms of needing some decision points from the city council in advance or before.
Okay, I agree with my colleagues. I think we need to plan for 2020. Even for that, we need to have a discussion on on having a CicLAvia. And we had it about a year and a half ago. It was a great event. But there are other events as well that we can have in the city, and I think we cannot just disregard them. And there are a few ideas that I will bring back before the end of this fiscal year, so we can have different choices as far as having large events in Glendale. But other than that, I don't have any comments on the rest of the plan, because if it comes back during the budget study time, then I will make my comments at that time. But I think we need to find out what the cost of everything is that we do. And I don't know, what was the cost, $150,000? Was our share, or what was the cost of CicLAvia overall, the entire thing?
Councilmember Garpetian, members of the council, the total costs to the city of Glendale was $45,000. So when we factored in the amount of the grant that we received, the amount that the city of LA paid, we did come to the council for that amount, and it was $45,000.
What was the total cost of the event?
The total cost of the event was, including the city of LA, was almost
including the grant and everything else.
About $300,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, that's fine. That's where I think we need to plan this a lot. We need time to plan the event, so I don't think I'm going to go for it for this year. So.
I can talk about myself. Does the city council wants to do this, to go forward without award of a grant? I do not wish to do it without awarding a grant. If we can cover the expenses, I would be happy to see, any festival or any gathering or people to come and have good time. But we should not be burdened with the cost of any event, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hajian. Ms. Devine, did you have comments, or you think you?
No, I'm still thinking about this, because I have the cost is a lot. It was a fabulous event. There's no doubt about it. With certain changes, I'm not sure. I guess I'm in favor of it. I mean, it was great. It was good. I would prefer if we had the grant, but if we don't have the grant, I think with the offer from CicLAvia to help us out with some of the expense, and hopefully that it'll be a healthy hand up, I would vote to go ahead with the CicLAvia planning.
For 2020.
For 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For 2020, not for this year. Yeah.
All right. So, yes, Mr. Najari.
So not this April,
Not this
correct?
year.
For a
Right,
grant
yes,
coming?
Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have one other comment. Let's bear in mind, though, that the next cycle for CicLAvia funding is really it's a mid-cycle distribution, and these are funds from other cities that were not able to utilize them. So it's not as full and complete as it was this first time around, where we came in just missing it. So there is a possibility that in 2020 we may not get that. Obviously, we'll try very hard to do that on the staff level. Some of the factors that they take into account in awarding, it's a point system, that they take into account in awarding the CicLAvia funding are the interface with other jurisdictions, the route design, as the gentleman said, they prefer it to be flat, population density, and very important is the proximity and the involvement of other transportation modes. So our initial, this application could have been a little bit better if we had tied in, let's say, the Glendale Transportation Station, where we have Amtrak and Metrolink, as well as the LA River Bike Path. If we can show that we're tied into that in some manner, those are what would give us a lot of points. So as staff goes forward thinking about that, and I'm sure the CicLAvia staff and executive director knows those little fine details to score as many points as we can to win the next round of funding. I thought we were actually paying more of that 300,000 than the 45,000 that you said we actually hit the bill with. That's a great bargain, I think. So we really need to do everything we can to grab that. And so that's, I again continue, I would support my colleagues that say let's wait until the next funding cycle, try and grab that, and then it would really be a no-brainer at that point if our costs are going to be very limited. If not, I would say let's get back on. Let's still try and have it in 2020, work with CicLAvia and try and reduce some of our costs so it's not as fully expensive as it was last time at the 300,000.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Najarian. And I want to thank our staff once again for preparing this report. I think we've really intensified our economic development efforts in the last few years, and that's a good thing because we're more and more in control of our own economic destiny. I think that was the entire intent of many of the efforts that we've undertaken in the last several years. With respect to the CicLAvia, I think there's consensus on the dais that in the absence of the grant, given the relative recency of the CicLAvia held in Glendale, perhaps we pass this year and seek for funding for the 2020 cycle, given the caveat that it apparently is going to be harder for us to get funding next time around. But if the application is submitted better and takes into account some of the factors that Councilmember Najarian indicated, I think we still have a pretty good shot. Also, I think this gives us a chance to perhaps talk to our folks up north, in the northern part of the city. Here's a chance for us to showcase Montrose, and oftentimes, I know they like to be kind of left alone, but not to be left alone that much. And maybe this is a good opportunity for us to give them a big hug and also work with our colleagues on the La Crescenta side. I understand that Council is still seeking also instruction as to whether they can start preparing for the Tech Week and move forward with the Tech Accelerator. I'm not sure that the question is being asked for the Tech Accelerator because you're almost done with that. You're about to present that. But the Glendale Tech Week, I'm clearly entirely in support of pushing that forward, and of course go ahead with the preparatory work, not merely because this is an initiative that I had a certain role in initiating, but because really, as predicted, I think tech is more and more becoming an economic engine in our city and is really filling a lot of the void that was created by some companies leaving the city. And if 6-7 years ago, the multi-billion-dollar companies in Glendale were the Nestle's of this world. Now it's the service titans of this world, and they're indigenous, and they want to stay here. And our economic development departments and staff's recommended involvement with such companies has made sure that they stay here, and they want to prosper here, and they want to grow here. So with that in mind, those are my recommendations. And I don't know what...
Is that Silicon Mountain? Is that a for sure thing? You gotta need something better, like Silicon City or...
Beach.
No, they got beach, they got valley. Think of something a little snappier.
So we've actually been speaking with some of our neighbors as well, Pasadena and Burbank, because our theory on this is still that the high tide rises all, and that we are really competing against those in downtown, on the west side, and to the Bay Area to some extent. So part of this might be, hey team, can we come up with something snappy? We've heard the idea Silicon Hills, but Austin actually has that title. I think we've tried the Silicon Mountains and threw out that hashtag to see if it sticks. I know.
Silicon Seco, sort of
Silicon
referred to the
Seco.
Arroyo Seco.
Yeah.
But Seco means dry, doesn't it? It's kind of
but
I don't know why I want
So I think it's this.
Work on
associate the word dry with...
work on that. Get your creative juices going one day. We'll go to Mr. Furley's and have a brainstorming session.
That's what was missing.
That's a great idea.
Or the electric pussycat, baby. Behave yourself.
I hope that's not part of your motion.
So
Direction only, direction.
do we need to take action on this, or no? Do you have direction? Yeah.
We have
Yeah,
direction.
At
And
this
Phil,
point-
you're doing a good job, too. Let's give Phil Lands of Fame credit for not tying down the creative process with these two young ladies. I know
I've been very successed at that, not tying
you
in.
know your talent and you use them the right way.
So one thing that Darlene and Jennifer mentioned, I think we need to accentuate more, is that the way to keep these companies here and make them grow here is to make sure the workforce is here. And you hear that over and over and over again. The number one issue that all of them have is not anything related to the city or anything related to, I don't know, the climate or, the economic flow of finances, but it's being able to hire the talent. And I think we do have a complex approach of making sure that the city attracts the talent. And as often we talk about sort of the negative effects of the last years of development in downtown Glendale, but I think that development has made sure that the talent, for example, for the tech sector, is willing to come to Glendale and live here and move here and work here. So again, the complex approach, we've got to make sure we have the people who are going to staff these companies. So you have direction?
We do.
We do.
Are we good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I just had an idea for the name of Glendale Galaxy. Put it down, GG, just saying.
Glendale what? Galaxy?
Galaxy, just saying.
How about Tech Galaxy?
Like, ooh,
All right, well, thank you very much.
you're welcome.
I think adjournment is next, so,
To adjourn?
Yes.
Second.
and we're adjourned at 4:11 PM.